Okay, good evening, everybody. We'll go ahead and reconvene the special meeting of the Folsom City Council for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. Any final action to report out of closed session, Mr. City Attorney?
No final action, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn the special meeting and convene the regular meeting of the Folsom City Council for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Howell?
Here.
Miklos?
Here.
Sheldon?
Here.
Morin?
Here.
And Gaylord is absent.
Okay, would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so with that, any agenda updates this evening?
Mr. Mayor, just one agenda update. You have received additional comments on item 8B, which is the general plan, or the draft general plan workshop update. Those comments have been provided to the council and are available to public at the back table.
Okay, thank you. And then one other announcement. There's apparently a document or a piece of paper circulating mentioning that we were going to be hearing the plan development for the Folsom Heights development in the Folsom Plan area. And this was an item that was heard by our Planning Commission, I believe, a few weeks ago. And it's going to circulate back to the Planning Commission for more discussion. So I don't know where that document emanated from, but it was not an official City of Folsom document. So if you're here for that, my apologies, number one, but that will next be heard at a future Planning Commission meeting and then come to the City Council. So my apologies for any confusion there. So with that, next item, please.
Your next item tonight is business from the floor. You have 2 requests to speak. Your first request is from Aaron Gurley, and Aaron will be followed by Lou Doros.
Hi, good evening, Aaron.
Good evening. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
My name is Aaron Gurley, and I'm here this evening on behalf of my family, 2 of my neighbors, and all of our neighbors in our neighborhood that live on Hildebrand Circle. I'm sure most of you are aware
Very
of
aware.
the cut through that has gone through in our neighborhood. I have 2 daughters, young daughters. Both of my friends here have young kids. There are so many kids on the street and pets, and I would encourage any council member to come any evening and come stand outside in the street with us and watch these cars just fly up and down the street. And you can tell immediately when they make the turn if they're going to make the cut through because they're flying. If they're resident, they go slow. And I'm just telling you, tensions are high. They're very high. And we have emails. My neighbor Craig had emailed Mr. Palmer and Mr. Rakovan over a year ago, February of last year, bringing up this concern. And we were told the process was being underway to make it an emergency vehicle access. So we're just hoping that continues to be the plan. But you're going to continue to see us. We're going to be here because it's a problem. The city approved that cut through, and the city needs to be accountable to making sure that our children and our families are safe, period.
Right. So just so you're aware, Aaron, we have gotten that message very loud and very clear. I just have one quick question for you because my sense is this is almost growing exponentially.
It is.
Okay. So I was speaking with our city manager, and this is way at the top of our list. My commitment to you is we'll get some information out to you within the next week as far as a game plan we're putting in place, so our traffic engineers all over this as well. So thanks for coming out and keeping the heat on.
Well, and we appreciate that. We're looking to be a part of the solution. If there's something we need to do, we've been calling the police department. In fact, 2 weekends ago, one of my neighbors bought a radar gun, and we were sitting out there and getting people. We get their license plates. We called the police department. Really nice. Folsom PD has been amazing, by the way, every time they've come out. And they've suggested to us that this is the next step. They're like, you've got to go to city council. We
Okay.
can only control so much, right?
Okay, yep,
So-
yep, and they are absolutely right. You can't enforce your way out of this problem, and we know more needs to be done. So-
My last thing, we did bring a picture, and I would pass this around. We actually had a vehicle making that pass-through that ran into the house on the corner. Folsom, you'll see the full report on it. I've got a picture of the Toyota Land Cruiser literally in my neighbor's bedroom of his home. So
Okay,
it's a problem.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, I could probably
Yes.
save a couple electrons if you want
Okay.
me to give like a 90-second version of everything that's going on
That
with
would
regard to
be
that.
something I'm sure Aaron and
Yeah.
his neighbors
Would
would
love it.
love to hear.
Yeah,
So,
and happy to, Aaron, happy to communicate with you in email in more detail. But the long-term, even the short-term solution for a lot of those problems is reliant on El Dorado County completing the Saratoga interconnect between Iron Point Road and the unfinished portion of Saratoga that eventually goes to El Dorado Hills Boulevard, and then Wilson Boulevard that runs between that subdivision that is generally generating a large part of the cut-through traffic through your neighborhood. We're also looking at improvements along Empire Ranch Road. There are 2 programmed signals there, and one that we're working out the particulars right now at Ritchie Road that will be, it's the other entrance into your neighborhood.
Sure.
That will create some opportunities to change the ingress and egress at Woodhead, which is the other ingress and egress to your neighborhood that I think is in the vicinity of that, where that accident that you mentioned was. So a lot of things on the table. My traffic engineer has also been corresponding with one of your other neighbors, Will Scott, who I believe lives at the corner of one of those corners in there, about some other short-term mitigations that will help shape the traffic in there a little bit and cause people to drive a little bit more slowly and prevent some corner cutting, if you will. And so we're working all of those out. If you leave and that gentleman that I'm referring to is in the blue shirt right behind you. If you leave your email with him, we can make sure that you're in the loop on all those progress reports. But that's, in 90 seconds, essentially what's going on that problem.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it.
great.
Okay.
Thanks.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
out today, Aaron.
Okay, your next speaker tonight is Lou Doros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Lou Duros. I'm a filmmaker, and I've worked with many of you already. I can tell you, remember having you in our studio, and have been working with Parks and Recreation with Robert Goss on, as you may know, the videos for the Johnny Cash Trail Art Experience. Last year, we created 3 videos that have been part of that website. And as a filmmaker, the first thing you hope for, the thing that most filmmakers hope for, is to be able to do all your own work and have creative control over everything. The next best thing, though, is to have a great client. And the city of Folsom has been a fantastic client, the Chamber of Commerce as well, for me in working together. And one of those films that we did for the trail won a Telly Award. And so I'm here today to share the love with you all. Robert Goss, where's Robert? Come on down here, please. Robert and I have worked on the creative concepts for the trail and messaging, and with Toby Briggs and the group Grow from Auburn. And we have, I'm so proud to have this award and to be able to share it with you all. Robert, of course, as you know, would say that it's a team effort. And the same thing is true with production. You don't do anything alone. But working together with Robert and with you all, supporting him and the vision that they've been portraying. I was out there filming today as they're pouring concrete, and here's a guy with a suit, with a shirt and tie out there trudging along in that silt, and I'm just so impressed with your commitment. Yeah, don't shake his hand. But I just wanted to present this with you. It's a Telly Award. It's an internationally recognized award for work done on the Johnny Cash Trail video. So thank you, Robert.
Let us know if he tries to be an actor.
Will do. Well, it comes with this neat box and a nice cleaning cloth in there too. So thank you, Robert.
Mr. Mayor, if you just give me a moment. Lou told me we wanted to come to City Council and make this presentation, but he said it was to the city, not to me. So thank you, Lou. He's psyching me out here. But as he said, these kinds of things don't happen without a team. And while ideas get generated through staff, they get vetted and considered and approved by city councils and through the direction of the city managers. So this is a team that goes much beyond the staff and the consultants that are working on it. Without the commitment of the city council, this isn't happening. And so thank you for that. This really, I'll accept this on behalf of the city, if you will, as opposed to, it's not really an award to me. Thank you, Lou. And I'm going to report to you that progress is being made on a daily basis in this project. In fact, the city manager was in my office seeing, kind of an interim milestone that we achieved today that I hope to, present back to you some really significant things on that. But every day we're making progress, and we, as Lou said, we were videoing the West abutment foundation being poured back behind the zoo, and the public has no idea the treat that they're in, let alone the art experience, but the Johnny Cash Trail itself. The public has no idea the treat that they're in for when we finish that project. It's very cool. So
Great.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Lou.
Lou, thanks for all the great work, Lou, on that. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, next item, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, next item is your consent calendar.
All right, so we have items A through J, J. Anything to pull for discussion?
I'm going to pull G.
G. Okay.
I'll move
Okay.
A through E. F has been deleted, and H through J.
Second.
Okay, those items moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Howell,
Yes.
Miklos.
Yes.
Sheldon,
Yes.
and Moran.
Yes. Okay, item 7G.
So item 7G is resolution number 9930. This is a resolution rescinding resolution number 8924 and adopting a new fee schedule for the Folsom City Zoo Sanctuary.
Okay, Gurney.
Okay, I talked to the city manager, talked to some of the people within the Park and Rec. Robert was busy, so I never got to him. I'm going to give a little history on the zoo and on fees. Way back, I can't even remember, but it has to be 20 years. I was approached by the then supervisor of the zoo, was a lady, and asked me to make a presentation, actually a fight, with Jack Kipp on the city council, because we had a proposal to the Park Commission to make a fee, because there was no fee for the zoo, and we needed some kind of funding, obviously. And at that time, the atmosphere is, you walked against Kipp, he kept walking. So she needed somebody that he couldn't fire, and that was me. And so I went up there after a lot of debate. The council approved the fee structure. And Jack told me personally, right there on the podium, that by approving that fee, the zoo is gone. Nobody will go. Well, that wasn't true. The zoo is still here, doing more and better. Now, my only point this item is I made this remark to all the directors in 2009 when I got elected to this council. I made it very clear that I was going to be in a position that any department that wanted to increase fees of any sort, they're going to have to prove to me the justification for my support of the fees. Because I was not going to have fees in some cities, we haven't had it here. But I was just saying ahead of time my position. You don't make mistakes and you don't cover up things by increasing fees on the residents of this town. And it hasn't happened since I've been here, 8.5 years. But that's why I pulled this one to discuss the organization. And the reason I look at it, we just went through a budget cycle. So if you look at the budget cycle, the thing that the zoo has working for them, and this whole council supports that idea, it's an emotional appeal. Everybody loves animals, and we all had animals in our life at some stage. And regardless, you're going to want to keep our zoo and our animals. But I said way back when I was a park commission, the chair of the park commission, I told the zoo, if you ever become $1,000 or $1 million impact on the general fund, you now become a target if things get bad. And they're pretty close to that now. And I had a lady come in many years back. It was Bud Hannaford's wife. I think it was Margaret. Was very active in the zoo, and we had an award we gave her at the commission. And one thing she told us, you got to get the zoo under control, because at that time they were running about 600,000 impact. So we haven't really got it under control. And I'm not saying I don't want to change it. I'm going to vote for this, okay? Because people say, oh, $1, no. Well, if everybody's adding $1 before you know it, some people are hurting, okay? And that's not going to be me, but there are a lot of people that we have to pay attention to fees. And so I got assurances from they had reorganizations down there. Robert put some new people, attrition took some, and there are going to be changes made. Okay? It's nice for new eyes to look at things that aren't working as well as they could. So I'm confident that it's not a case of covering something up. I know we have a new barn exhibit down, just got completed, pretty much completed. That should be an attraction. It should increase our gate attendance to some degree, but not overly. But that in the staff report, it said $100,000 will come. Well, if you're indebted to the general fund of $800,000, $100,000 doesn't make a big impact. Though it's nice to have more money. So all I'm saying is that this is a word I'm passing to all. For my position, I'm only one vote. But any fees that come before me on this council, they're going to have to justify that they need it. And I feel they have justified it. But every time you come with a fee thing, it's so easy to raise fees. Sacramento does it every time you wake up. They got a fee for something else. I don't want to be Sacramento, and we haven't. The only fee I remember in the 8.5 years I've been here, we had a $2 water fee way back in December of some year. That was all that I remember. Now, we try to do a little bit too heavy on the Park and Rec user fees for using the facility. But when we filled this room up with all the young kids and swimmers and everybody else, that changed. It went down from 37 to 11. So we did okay. So all I'm saying, I will support this, but I'm just saying to everybody, you got to look inside to be sure you're doing what you can do before you ask the city and the kids, because a lot of the kids go to that zoo, to add more money to run. You got to look at, are you doing things right? And do you have enough people? Do you have too many people? Are you running a snack bar that produces money, and do you know how to run a snack bar? We gave the zoo the snack bar because we didn't feel the other owner was doing the right thing. And it hasn't done what it could do. Because Park and Rec has two other snack bars that are very effective. In the Aquatic Center and come to me. It's two of them. And they're doing well. Oh, the sports complex. They're doing so. But the snack bar in the zoo is not doing as well. But it'll get fixed. They know how to fix things, and they'll fix it. So that's why I'm disposed this thing. I want to be sure that the residents know, although you say it's only $1, well, I don't never want to hear any fee increases only, because you don't know who you're affecting, okay? So with that, I'll move the item.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second the item. So with that, please call the roll on item 7G.
Council members Howell?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
And Moran.
Yes. All right, moving on.
Our next item tonight is our first public hearing. That is resolution number 9924. This is a resolution extending the vesting tentative subdivision map and plan development permit for the Harvest subdivision project located at 1680 East Natoma Street with the project number identified as 17-128.
Good evening, Steve.
Good to see you. We have a pretty straightforward request this evening. It's a request for approval of an extension to a previously approved subdivision map, as well as a planned development permit for the Harvest subdivision. Harvest subdivision is located on East Natoma Street, surrounded by the Empire Ranch Golf Course. It's a little under 50 acres in size and included 116 single-family residential units. The project also included a 5-acre park within its boundary. The project was originally approved by the council in April of 2015. Since that time, the applicant's been fairly active and accomplishing a lot of milestones towards development of the project. In March, they submitted a letter to the city requesting an extension in time. There were a couple reasons for that. They were trying to line up a builder for the homes for the subdivision. And secondly, the weather was causing some delays in terms of moving forward with the site improvements. I would note that the subdivision map itself was eligible for an automatic extension per the Subdivision Map Act. The city automatically extended the subdivision map. The applicant chose to move forward and formalize this request for the extension through the city council process. As I mentioned, they're seeking approval of a map extension as well as a planned development permit extension. And I'm not going to go through the list here, but they've accomplished a number of goals, including the on-site and off-site improvements have been approved. They're ready to start moving dirt probably within the next week on the project site. And there are a number of other accomplishments I've listed on the screen. This is a image showing the subdivision map that was approved by the City Council. Staff is fully supportive of the request to extend both the subdivision map as well as the plan development permit. I'd be happy to address any questions you might have. The applicant is also here this evening if you have questions of the applicant.
So Steve, as was mentioned in one of your bullets on your slides there, so since this was first approved by this council 2 years ago or so, no changes, it's the same?
There have been no changes to circumstances in the project area that would lead to a change in conditions of approval.
Questions, any other questions?
Yeah, I have some comments on this project. First of all, I want to ask the question, who owns it now?
I'm not sure if
Who's
it's
the
changed.
owner of the?
Lewis,
of the-
Lewis is my understanding, is the
Well,
owner.
Lewis doesn't build homes, so if you're waiting for a builder, who's going to build it?
Cal Atlantic is the builder that signed up, and I
Okay.
believe representatives of Cal Atlantic are here this evening.
Because my opinion, for what it's worth, is the delay is because they had had to go through a process to sell the property. Okay, the business of water and rain, developers know how to handle that, okay? Second, is it automatic in the subdivision map that you had to give them a 3-year extension? Because they only asked for 2 in the request.
Well, the Subdivision Map Act allows for a automatic 3-year extension.
Saying what allows, is it mandatory?
That's what was granted by the city engineer.
You're avoiding my question. Could you have given them 2?
I'm assuming you could have done a shorter time frame. Yes.
Okay, so now you're coming here and asking us to give them 3. It took a whole 2 years to get there, and we've gone through Lewis Homes and other projects that got delayed. And and I know that's what it is. They get entitlements, they sell the property, that's normal, that's fine. Okay, but there's no reason for us to keep giving people extensions because they can't do what they would have to do. And so and I'll ask one more question, because I voted no last time because I felt they did not do proper the historical aspects of Folsom by going to eliminate that winery that they have out there, the last remaining building of the Broder Ranch. And to me, it was lousy then, it's still lousy now, even though it's still up. Okay, if the new owners are going to go through with what was entitlements, then I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to vote no on the extension. And I would really vote no because we shouldn't be giving more or less. We just encourage them to drag it out. If they wanted to, and that should be fine. But by discretionary adding another year, doesn't make sense to me. So I just want to make that statement.
All right. Ernie, any other questions for Steve? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. I presently have no requests to speak on this item. You want to submit a speaker request card? Just announce who you are. We'll dispense with the formality there. Good evening, Jennifer.
Hi, I really came to look at the general plan, but this harvest project, Jennifer Lane, 604 Sibley Street, 40-year resident and planning commissioner in the city of Folsom. Is that good
No,
enough?
I just wanted your name on the record, that's all.
Okay.
We knew who you are, but they don't.
Okay. So my passion is history and the environment, and I taught that to my students for 27 years. This piece of property could mean a lot to the youth of Folsom. The vote at the Planning Commission meeting 2 weeks ago was 3-4. 3 in favor of saving the building and changing condition number 53. We didn't get the votes, so now it's in your hands. And I talked to Betty Broder maybe 3 weeks ago, and she's very sorry that it's come to this. She wished she would have been more attentive to her sister during the negotiations. I just can't tell you enough of how wonderful this building could be for the city of Folsom. It was no doubt quarried from the Folsom prison, as was the Broder family home, as was the museum, as was the powerhouse. How can it not be historical and worth saving? I don't understand it. You could have the developer reroute that the park, the 5 acres, and save that building for the students, the youth, the up-and-coming people that need to understand our history. I don't believe that they're going to understand Russell Ranch, Empire Ranch, and all these ranches without a physical ranch. I mean, the land was given to the city in good faith by Vera Silverstein to enhance the Broder name. 3 brothers that came from Switzerland and made good here. They are beyond our icons of the city, and we're tending to erase who they are and what they did. They had a very successful ranch, very successful. The Chan family delivered groceries out there. Madeline Mosley knew Vera Silverstein. I mean, there's all these connections that you're just not understanding. And I know you can make a difference to this developer if you plan on saving that building. For me, it was number 53 in the plan. So I'm just going to leave this on your shoulders, because when I run for city council in a couple of years, I'm going to make sure that the city knows that I tried to save that, and I'm sure it'll be bulldozed within a few days, as Steve brought up, that they're going to be moving dirt in a few days, and I'm sure that that building will go down, and it's going to be on your shoulders. Sorry about that.
So.
I got a question for the city attorney. As I understand the subdivision law, if there are absolutely no changes in the entitlement process and they come for an extension, we do not have an opportunity to reopen conditions.
Mr. Mayor and the members of the City Council, that's a very good question. The answer is yes and no. So for the most part, generally speaking, you are absolutely correct, Councilmember Miklos. What's pending before you is whether to extend or not extend the life of the tentative map, not to redesign the map. And under those circumstances, we are not able to impose new conditions on the map by law. There are very, very few circumstances where the city could, but none exists here. For example, if the state passes a different law that says every new home can only allow a toilet to be flushed once every 20 minutes, then we have to impose that on every new home. That's not the case here.
Okay, and then additional to that, I thought I heard Jennifer say that this land was given to the city. It was never given to us, number one. Number two, to make it clear to the public, we went through every opportunity and every historical data and all the resources that Lewis Homes or Lewis Corporation, say, brought to the city, that we could not make a legal determination that thing had significant historical preservation label or whatever you want to call it. Though I don't disagree, you know, it's certainly heritage from our past, if you will, in the city of Folsom. But then again, every piece of parcel that everybody has their homes on, including hers, mine, and everybody else sitting here, had some historical significance, and we didn't put a monument, or we didn't save a building, or we didn't save a brick, or whatever the case may be. And I don't dismiss history by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, people that know me extremely well know I'm an extreme history buff. So I'd be the wrong person to say that I would be preserving history. I'll take you to task every day on that one. But I'm also very respectful of the laws that are in front of us. And when the law says exactly the city attorney just outlined, is very clear in the staff report, this one doesn't give us, as some people call, another bite at the apple. So in my opinion, the vote at the Planning Commission should have never occurred in the first place, because it wasn't relevant and germane to the action that was in front of them. So that, to me, is very clear. And so when people say this one sits on our shoulders, we have to follow the law, whether we like it or not. We still have to follow the law. Whether you become a council member 2 years, 3 years, whatever, you still got to follow the law, not your personal belief and opinions. No different than the 5 of us up here. Though it's difficult when a lot of us want to do our own thing, you still got to respect the law and not put 70-some-odd thousand people in a lawsuit to which we all end up paying. Because at the end of the day, we got to pay a fine or whatever. It comes from all of us as a city. So I just want to make that clear, because there had to be a real clear understanding of what the action is in front of us. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm not debating Steve, we're friends. But to clarify I think Jennifer's remarks about the land given, it's the 7-point-something acre for the park.
For the park.
That's given to us. So
the park.
yeah, but keep in mind now, that building is very close and could have been part of the 7.5. So it may be wordsmithing, but.
Oh, no,
you know.
don't even go there. Because
Okay.
if they want to give us the building, they would have given us the building. She specifically gave us the park. In fact, if you really want to go back, let's talk about Measure H and G way back in the late 90s, when I actually negotiated Vera to give us the entire acreage. And because she found out a couple of members in town were involved, one being on the city council, and you know who I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
She basically pulled it back
You
because she had
can't
a
cut
bad
a
experience.
rancher's water off and expect them not
Yes.
to remember that.
So,
Okay,
I
that's-
don't disagree with you, it is close, but if the intention was to preserve that and give that to us with the park, and we made opportunities to ask for it, and they basically said, no, this is what you guys get.
But
They
what-
didn't include the building.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna argue with you on that. But what could be, the developer could say, okay, forget it, we'll give you that condition, we'll leave the building. Okay, I'm not saying he's going to, not saying many would do it, the odds are he would not, most won't. Okay, but it could be done. But another issue that we're talking about tonight is 2 years that they asked for, and 3 years the staff is recommending, because a engineer in our staff gave him 3. Didn't have to give him 3, couldn't have given him more, but gave him 3 rather than 2. So the real answer is, do we have to go along with staff and give him 3? Why don't we give him 2?
You can go to-
Okay, let's see, so public hearing's still open. Any other requests to speak on this item? Okay, so I'm going to close
I got it.
public hearing, and
Okay.
then Vice Mayor Hall.
This project originally came to us quite some time ago. It's been through the entire process. It went to the Parks Commission. There was quite a bit of discussion when it went to the Parks Commission. There was quite a bit of discussion when it came here. I completely agree with, all of the advice that I've received in my 19 years on the City Council and 4 years on the Planning Commission before that with how state law works, and we don't get a second bite at the apple here. In addition to that, when we talked about this, and I watched the Parks Commission meeting, when they talked about it, and then we talked about it again at the council level, the building, there's questions as to what the building was used for. But the most important thing about that building is it's not structurally sound. So we can't let anybody in the building anyway. I think it's kind of cool at the end of the day that we're going to use some of the building materials in and around the neighborhood. I think that's a really good way to use it, because otherwise what would happen is we would have to build a fence around the house or around the building, and then we'd watch it cave in on itself. So, I don't think that that's productive use when it's likely that 15 years from now, it's just going to be a big pile of rocks. I think it's nice that we're commemorating it, but we don't get a second bite at the apple. We know what the state law says. That's what this council is supposed to do, and it's been through the process. Everybody has had at least more than one shot at this, from the Planning Commission all the way up to the City Council.
Well, not to argue anymore, but I do make one statement. You're an engineer, and when you say it can't be done, there's not an engineer in this building or a developer that says you can't do it. It's how much you want to pay to do it. Okay, so don't say it can't be, because it's not now.
I didn't
agree.
say that, Ernie. I said it's not structurally sound.
Right, but it could be.
Okay, so I think we all understand that when this was first before us a couple years ago, there were some strong opinions, and this was vetted to an extreme, and we actually did. We had some great opinions from the Heritage Preservation League and other folks, and it was a tough decision, I think, for all of us to figure out the best way to make this work. And again, we all talk about our memories about, and I appreciate some of the long-term history as far as going back, but at the end of the day, for myself, I did feel like there was a lot of sensitivity to what is out there and what will remain out there. And this was an opportunity where we did have a significant chunk of property donated to the city to actually, I just look at it as kind of a bit of an expansion of McFarland Park there as far as some more passive use parkland there. So I think it's a great gain for the city. It's impossible to do everything we'd like to do based on budgets and things like that. But I was supportive of this in the past, and just for my consistency, as well as Ernie mentioning his consistency as far as prior votes. And really the thing before us this evening
Could I make
is
an amendment?
more than- Sure.
I'd like to amend from a 3-year to a 2-year as they requested initially.
I don't have any problem with that. I can't imagine that would.
Mr. Mayor, can I just jump in?
You bet,
I
you
think
bet.
one of the things that you started to allude to, and maybe you got sidetracked, was part of the salute to the Broder family is what we're actually putting in the park. Remember, we had a discussion about the cows and the sheep and all that kind of stuff. Remember the actual interpretive areas of the park? And they were going to be outlined with the Broder history throughout the park. So I think that was that, as well as the stones being disseminated throughout the subdivision. I think it's one of the approvals we gave.
Yeah, and I just, for people who don't remember this discussion 2 years ago, it was tough. And, but it wasn't, the ultimate decision wasn't made with zero sensitivity to what's out there. So, you know, people just, it's important that they realize that.
You know, I feel like I'm back to high school in a debating class, you know, and I don't want to get that role, but it sounds like that, you know, I hope the city never, with this new general plan, accepts a plaque or a picture in lieu of an item that we can say to remember history. That's a cheap way out, folks. That's how I say it. I quit debating.
Well, it wasn't that simple, but anyway, so is that a motion, Ernie?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to, let's see, that would be resolution number 9924, as written, just extension for 2 years instead of 3, correct? Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if I may address that real
bet.
quick. So the developer has complied with the State Subdivision Map Act requirement by spending and expending a considerable amount of money to the tune of over and above $236,790, which is the threshold in the Subdivision Map Act. Under that provision, the developer is entitled to
okay,
3 years.
so this is boilerplate state law then that we need to adhere to here then?
Correct,
Okay.
36 months.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
So,
But just to add, if you think I'm going to be sentimental for that amount, then give me back the $887 he took out from the island project.
okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and make the motion to move resolution number 9924.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other comments? Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Howell?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Sheldon?
No.
Gaylord? No. And Moran?
Yes. And just like to welcome Roger to the meeting here. Roger had an important family obligation, so thanks for getting here as quick as you could, Roger. Okay, so with that, next item, please.
Your second public hearing tonight is the preliminary draft general plan workshop.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Scott Johnson, Planning Manager. In March of this year, the city staff was before you presenting the preliminary draft general plan. Leading up to that meeting and during the meeting, the city staff received numerous comments on the general plan. A lot of those comments were very detailed, and we certainly appreciate the time and effort put into providing those comments. To capture those comments, we prepared a spreadsheet that's part of your staff report. It includes all of the comments received, as well as staff's responses to those comments. In some cases, the comments resulted in new policies or modified policies or additional text being added to the document. In other cases, staff is not recommending any additional changes for some of the comments provided. Tonight, Chelsea Payne from Inter and Harnish is going to walk you through the document as far as the proposed changes are concerned. Before she starts, I wanted to call your attention to the revised transmittal mentioned earlier this evening. We did receive 2 additional pieces of correspondence. One was an email from Casey Kempenar, and he had responded to staff's responses based on his original letter to us. The second piece of correspondence was from the Greater Folsom Partnership. They've asked for consideration of additional language in the document. I believe they'll be here tonight to present that to the council. Staff has had a chance to review that language and is supportive of its inclusion into the document. And this time I'll ask Chelsea to walk the council through the documents.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, Chelsea.
I have a question.
You bet.
You said there was a spreadsheet outlining a spreadsheet doing it. Is it in here?
It's in there, yes.
Where? I can't find, I don't remember it. But that's okay. Well, if you're going to show me, that's fine.
Right.
So the
It's
spreadsheet.
attachment 9 to the staff report.
Attachment 9, Ernie.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Chelsea Payne with Mintier Harnish. And as Scott said, we published the preliminary draft general plan back in January. And since that time, we've been going to the various commissions and to the city council to get feedback on the draft and to hear from decision makers, commissioners, and members of the public. So we're here tonight to present to you some proposed revisions in response to all of the various comments that we received. In addition to the verbal comments, as Scott mentioned, we got emails and comment letters, and that the comment matrix shows you how we've responded and on what page we've responded to the comments. And to make it easier to track the changes themselves are shown in red underlined strikeout in the document.
Great.
So I'm going to walk through the revisions that we made to each element, starting with the introduction. There was a comment that the general plan didn't do enough to acknowledge Folsom's history. So in addition to some policy changes, we added a section on history to the introduction. So that's on page I-3 of the introduction. Most of the changes were made to the land use element. So this section I'm going to go through a little more extensively. First, we added a description of the planning area on page LU-8 of the land use element to clarify the purpose of a general plan planning area. Per state law, a general plan planning area is to include your city limits and any area that bears a relation to planning in the city. So the proposed planning area for this general plan contains 2 projects that were already approved by Sacramento County, Glenboro and Easton. And it also includes an area south of White Rock Road that contains gravel quarries. These quarries produce truck traffic that impacts the city of Folsom. The city is also exploring the potential relocation of the courtyard within this area. And then one of the other reasons that it's included as a planning area is that in the SACOG's 2050 blueprint, it was identified as urban designated land. And while this area isn't currently reflected in SACOG's long-range plans for development, we felt all of these reasons together were a good reason for the city to monitor the activities within this planning area. There are activities going on that bear relation to planning in Folsom.
And I just want to clarify something. The city is doing much more than considering relocation of the courtyard to south of White Rock Road. We are in fact moving forward with that, moving forward with a combination SOI and annexation of the property that will ultimately be the courtyard, and we wanted to make sure that that was in fact located within the city limits.
Right, great.
So that's
Thank
more
you
than
for
just contemplating.
That's right.
Thanks.
And I just want to clarify also, the general plan is not designating any area within this area for urban development. It's just included as the planning area. So in addition, in the land use element, we modified a few policies. We modified one policy to emphasize that light rail stations are not only for housing, but also as destinations to draw people into the city of Folsom. We modified program LU-1, which is the program calling for the zoning code update. And so we added a revision to also include an update to the historic district design and development guidelines. We added several new policies to the land use element about preserving historic resources, adhering to the SACOG blueprint principles, preserving the residential character of the historic district residential area. There's a new program to provide outreach to the property owners within the mixed use and TOD overlay designations to explain the benefits and the process for building within that overlay. And then we've added a new goal section for the River District overlay. And the River District overlay, the boundary of that, as proposed by FedCorp, is shown here on the map. And it's the dotted area that follows the river. And we've added this area to the land use diagram. And the goal section in the land use element calls for establishing a vision for the River District, working with the community to do so, and preparing a master plan to enhance the riverfront. As Scott mentioned, we've received some comments, some concern about some areas along the riverfront not being appropriate for increased access. So there's some proposed language included in your packet to consider the compatibility of surrounding uses. Some other changes to the land use element. On the land use diagram, we've added
Could I just interrupt? I hate to be rude, I don't want to do that. Is that in the staff report, or is that in this draft? I'm trying to find that map.
Oh, the map. The map is included in the draft. It's a 11 by 17 fold-out figure in the land use element. It follows the land use designations. And I want to say it's on page, perhaps LU9, LU11. So you can see the map here on LU11.
Okay, thank you.
So the
She was talking about the historic sub-area.
the area along here, there's a boundary, and you can see a dotted overlay here. That's the River District overlay. It's a little difficult to see. There's a lot going on in this area with a TOD overlay, the River District overlay, and the land use designations themselves. But hopefully that's included on the version of the map in front of you. Okay.
What does the 3 circles mean while you're there? What does it mean?
Those are the transit-oriented development overlay, and I'll talk about those in just a minute because they did change a little bit from the previous version. So I'll walk through some of the changes here. We've added a call out for the Historic District sub-area. That was a request of the Historic Preservation League, so we've added that here to the map. We've extended the East Bidwell mixed-use overlay to include parcels that go all the way up to Highway 50. We've designated a site, the Chinese digging site, as open space. It had previously had a commercial designation, but we've reflected that as open space.
Do we have that recently acquired parcel as part of that as well? Okay, great.
And then to get to Councilmember Sheldon's question, the circles along that surround the light rail station, those are the transit-oriented development overlay. And what that does is allows for transit-oriented development around the light rail stations. There was a comment that that area should be extended should be extended. So previously we had shown a quarter mile radius from the stations, and the proposal would be to extend that to a half-mile radius. And then one other change, and this gets back to partially to my comment on the planning area, is we've removed the reference to study area because I think it was confusing and there weren't definitions for what we meant by these study areas. So instead, we've clarified the purpose of a planning area, and we've taken off any reference to it being a study area. And at the existing Corporation Yard site, we had identified that as a study area, but it's more appropriate to actually show what it's designated for, which is industrial, and the policies and the programs in the general plan call for preparing a study for this parcel. We've also shown the Glenboro and Easton projects on the map with the land uses faded out, but just to reference the fact that they are approved projects by Sacramento County. In the mobility element, we've added a policy explicitly stating that sidewalks will be built on all new roads. Also a new policy to consider the impacts of autonomous vehicles on planning for roadways and parking in the city, and a policy to continue to implement traffic calming in residential neighborhoods, something the city's already doing, but we wanted to memorialize that here based on public comment. In the economic prosperity element, there's a new policy to support the development of business infrastructure, such as fiber optic. And we've modified a couple of the policies here to acknowledge the role of historic and cultural resources in economic development. In the natural and cultural resources element, we've added a new policy to nominate new sites for the city's cultural resources inventory, and a new program to acknowledge the Historic Preservation Master Plan. This program's to maintain and implement that plan. We've also modified a policy based on a comment from the Air District to set a threshold for new development that exceeds the air district's threshold of significance, and new development would incorporate features that result in a 15% reduction in emissions. And this is a threshold, this is being adopted by other jurisdictions within the region, sort of standard practice for reducing emissions. At a meeting with the Arts and Cultural Commission last week, the commission commented that they'd like to see more policies that acknowledge the city's cultural diversity. And this meeting just happened last week, but we're going to look for ways to also address that and incorporate that throughout the policies of the general plan. And then lastly, in the Parks and Recreation element, we've added 2 new programs based on comments from the Parks and Recreation Commission. One is to explore the feasibility of establishing alternative funding sources for parks. And the second is a program to coordinate with county, state, federal, and regional agencies to achieve the goals of the Parks and Recreation element, and specifically around increasing river access. So that's a summary of all of the proposed revisions in response to public comments. The next step in the process following tonight's meeting would be to start the environmental review process. We're looking towards preparing an environmental impact report, and then following that environmental impact report, we'll be revising the draft plan and releasing the official public review draft general plan, and going to the community for workshops, back through the process and meeting with the Planning Commission and City Council. So this schedule may be shifted by a couple of months because we have added this couple of months to respond to public comments in this early preliminary draft. So this was the schedule that I presented at your last meeting. It's likely off by a couple of months, but that's the process here. So this isn't the last bite at the apple. There will be the formal public review process going out to the community, but we'll be doing that with the findings from the environmental impact report.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chelsea. So I do have a number of requests to speak on this. So questions for Chelsea or Scott for a...
Can we do something now and then come back?
Absolutely, Ernie, you're a council member. You can do whatever you want.
Careful, careful. I got a sarcastic question. Anybody over 65 work on this project? The reason I
Yes,
ask you that
actually,
question is because...
Both of my bosses are over 65.
They need to be like I am. I see very little in this future plan that talks about old folks. You got a couple of line items that talk about assistant care programs. You got a couple of items that talk about something, but you're aiming to eliminate the truck or the car. That's what this says. You're gonna put me at 83 into a bike to go shopping, to get from on the other side of the river over to the main here?
God forbid.
Huh?
God forbid.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for everybody. But I'm just saying, that's one thing that throughout this, you see the clips? I got a lot of concerns because I read it completely. Now, I missed a couple because I didn't see this in there. So that must be in the staff report, but not in here. Is that right?
I'm sorry, what are you referring to?
Your corrections or?
The attachment 9.
Yeah, the attachment.
You didn't hear?
It's not in there. We did publish it on the website along with the revised draft, and it's
Yeah, I
included
wonder
in
why
the
I read
staff
this
report.
and I didn't read this. I looked at this and said, why do I read this when I got this? Okay, so that's why I'm acting like sort of a stupid guy, because I didn't think you got half on one side and half on the other. I don't have time to read duplicate items, okay, but we'll forget that. I'll go read this now that you mentioned it. But my point is, there's 2 items that really upsets me. Now, I'm obviously not going to ask every clip tonight, or we'll be here to midnight, and I'm not going to get killed by my fellow colleagues. But I will come and try to talk to you on individually before you do more draft. But there's 2 items that stick out to me. What I'm talking about, it's aimed at future, and you're forgetting today. I'm an old guy today. I'm not going to get younger. And all the young guys are going to get old, I hope, okay? But you're not going to eliminate the car. And this plan sort of drives the elimination of the automobile. And if you think in reality, a lot of our sales tax comes from the sales of the cars. So we're going to put us out of money to do our operating fund? That doesn't make sense. Okay, now, if you're aiming for the new development, such as south of 50, they have some flexibility. some of the things you say in here as a plan, you can't do it now, we're too far gone. Okay, I think, from what I know around town and what I'm looking at this thing. So that was one. And the second one I object to violently, and I'll have a few arguments before the night's over, and that's on the putting in the river district aspect, okay? Now, I remember, if I remember right, back in the last meetings that we had on this, 3 people got up and spoke in favor of that, okay? All chamber. I'll say 2.5. I'll give Will Kempton the half and half. I'll be nice to him. But they're all chamber people. And then when you get a request for something, you send it to FedCorp. What I'm driving at, I like the chamber, but I don't like deception. You send it to FedCorp because FedCorp's calling the shots. They're not calling the shots in the River District. That's a people's function. Now, tonight, I'm going to hear from Joe, because he sent us an email saying he's going to testify. That's fine. But my point is, with 2 people get up and say, and one was, Joe was okay, but Rob was just asking for the moon. Give me a break. Plus, you talk about state property that had a 25-year contract with the federal government, which they had 20 left on it. Do you really think we're going to change that? Okay, so that's my concern. I'll wait till you get to the presentation of the River District, and I'll talk more about it. But I get concerned when a few people on a document of this importance for this city, I won't be around unless they can haunt you from above or below, wherever I end up. This is very important, very, very important. Like the 1988, I was in on the 1988. We wrote, and I say we because it wasn't me, it was a bunch of us, wrote the master plan that went into that master plan for the Park and Rec, and it was a good document. It's good today. So I've been through one, but we can't underestimate the importance of all the young people, which I'm not criticizing young people. Believe it or not, I used to be that. But I'm saying we have to take I'm glad you said it, because I asked the city manager if we we're going to approve it today. He said, well, maybe. That scared the living hell out of me. Okay, because I got this many questions and we're going to approve it. Well, you clarified that. I feel happy that you're going to be more outreach before we get to that. So I'll discuss those 2 items, but I'll save all these paper clips for a personal.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just in terms of process, I mean, Ms. Payne is certainly able to answer the technical questions, but I feel like there's a couple of policy questions in Councilmember Sheldon's dialogue that's worth addressing. Number one, we're not, and this general plan certainly doesn't suggest, and staff doesn't hold this position either, that we are driving the city towards the elimination of the automobile. But with regard to all modes of transportation, we're simply reflecting what we see happening in the industry, and the transportation industry and the policy framework that surrounds the transportation industry is changing essentially right under our wheels as we sit here, with policy preferences moving more towards mass transit, particularly in housing developments and in transportation modes, and with the introduction of autonomous vehicles, which is something that just 5 years ago we might, that was kind of Buck Rogers of the 21st century, and here it is today, where the DMV is actually struggling with the policy framework around how to get these implemented. And there's even talk in the Sacramento region now of running pilot projects for autonomous vehicles in the transportation space. So I'm thinking it's a matter of days or months, not years or decades, before we see substantial transportation changes. And we are just simply trying to adapt our general plan at the cusp of these massive changes in order to be prepared for them the best we can. So we're not necessarily driving the city in one policy direction or another. And relative to any number of things, policy initiatives and that you find in the general plan that may be sourced by a member of the public, we're certainly not preferring one over the other. There are in the matrix and across this entire general plan, you will see initiatives that have been brought forth by individuals or groups across the broad spectrum of the city. That would include FedCorp, that would include Joe Smith on Main Street, it would include the Heritage Preservation League, it would include Mr. Casey Campanar, who you see his name in all of these things. So rather than us filter those initiatives by who sent the ideas in. We simply ran them through a very simple filter, and that is, they seem to have enough merit to bring forward to the city council for your consideration. And so that's the lion's share of the policy thought that goes into what makes it into the draft general plan and what gets presented to you. It's just simply, does that idea or concept have enough merit to bring forward to you with some type of maturation from the staff process? So it's not any particular group or another taking control of the general plan, per se.
Well, it's well stated. You're a good speaker, and I enjoy listening to you, but if you thought you convinced me, you're out of your mind.
Well, I'm only telling you the truth, sir. I'm not trying to convince anybody necessarily, but that is how the process works. And just to clarify, Councilmember Sheldon, if I left you with the impression that the City Council would be offered an opportunity to approve the general plan tonight, that was not my intent. Certainly, I believe what I communicated was the next step is to move on to an environmental process. We do not want to send a general plan that's not ready and hasn't been fully vetted by the council into the environmental process because it's expensive and lengthy. And so we want to be sure that we have a pretty well-baked product that goes into the environmental process for that round of feedback, so that when we are at the other end, sometime probably in the first quarter of next year, making final tweaks and having the plan presented to the council.
That statement I accept totally.
Yeah, so that was my intent to communicate to you, and if I didn't succeed there, my apologies. So with that, I'm tired.
So what I would suggest, just so we can get a feeling of comfort timeline-wise, is, and I spoke with the city manager about this earlier today, is to not feel rushed today to pass this general plan to hit the environmental review process. But that what we do is really do a lot of vetting today. This is kind of cycle 2, and we're all getting into more and more of the details. And it would be to aim for our second meeting in June to potentially, and again, if we're not ready, we won't, but to potentially approve the preliminary that would then go into the environmental process. So that'll give us a lot of time tonight to listen to some input, to share our thoughts. That can be all gathered by Scott and Chelsea, and then this will be teed up again, and there's going to be stuff that we're not all going to agree with, but we gotta get done at some point. So that'll be the loose plan at this point. So with that, any other questions for Chelsea or Scott?
I just have one clarification. I think, Chelsea, you said that attachment 9, which was the table, was included on the website. It's in the staff report.
Yes, it is in the staff report. We also,
So you have the table, Ernie, is what I'm...
Yeah, I was looking at this.
Right, yeah,
It's
no,
not
we know that. So,
Okay. I know where it is now. I'll read it.
Okay.
benefit of the public, we also posted it on the website, but it is included in your staff report.
And actually, I think that was frankly a good way to put it together so that it consolidates several pages of comments and whether they were or were not incorporated, and if so, how.
Roger, questions, comments?
I was just
before
going to say the
open
same
public
thing. It's great seeing when I tell folks, hey, go to the general plan update to submit your comments, and especially someone like Casey or the Heritage Preservation League. I see all of this incorporated into it, so it's a true testament to see all this redlining that things are changing and you're incorporating input. And so I think you've done a great job. There are some small tweaks that as we go through that I'm comfortable we'll be able to maintain and massage in here. But all in all, I really like what I see. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really an iterative process. It takes a while. So again, and I think we're getting some great leadership on this. So thanks. So any other questions before I open? Okay, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and we'll start the discussion here.
Okay, your first speaker tonight will be Barbara Larry. Barbara Larry will be followed by Will Kempton.
Everybody can tell us what an incredible job we're doing, and Barbara gets to start off here. Good evening, Barbara.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Barbara Leary. I regret not getting through this, actually the first document, till today, when I finished it, and so I haven't actually been able to get through all of the changes that have been made. Some of this may be in greater detail than is intended for a general plan, but I wanted to put out some ideas and thoughts ahead of time. One thing that I noticed this evening that I'd like to correct the nomenclature for the quote Chinese diggings unquote. This site is known on the National Historic Register as the Natoma Ground Sluice diggings. And I think that's an important thing to note because there's a long history and the archaeologists have actually never been able to prove that this site was developed by Chinese, not saying that Chinese
We might get
people
some
never-
argument, so we'll.
I
we'll
think
that.
maybe the compromise to that would be that we use both names.
Yeah,
Because
it's a colloquial thing to call it the Chinese diggings.
I know, but that's what people in Folsom understand it to be, so.
Well, I understand that, and I'm just trying to educate people. I have a video still online on YouTube explaining the history. At any rate, just to move on, I had some suggestion that I think has already been incorporated about including more of the amenities that go along with Folsom, including the historical, cultural, and recreational activities that are available here and not just calling it the gateway to the wine country. And the sustainable building, there is a LEED certification, that's LEED, that could be added for more clarification. I think the connectivity issues have been addressed. I had a concern about minimizing building setbacks because there is strong support throughout the rest of the document for increasing the tree canopy and maintaining and establishing green corridors to reduce heat zones throughout the city. The document does seem to, it talks about town centers, but there are some aging corridors that aren't addressed in the document, such as in Natoma Station, American River Canyon, Lexington Hills, where there's a lot of strip malls that need some kind of an attention placed on them. These have been empty for years and remain so today, even though the economy's turned around a little bit. I've brought this idea up in the past about putting parking underneath structures to reduce heat zones with massive parking lots. There was an indication in the document that asphalt parking lots should be reduced to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I want to just move forward. The rest of this has been submitted this evening.
Got about 15 seconds there,
I
Barbara.
know. And I do have concerns about the river district. There's been a lot of ideas thrown out there about making a promenade and having boat docks and party boats. And this is all feedback that I've gotten from members of the community. And I think that this is a huge amenity for us to have an open space where you can leave your home and within 5 minutes be in an area that still feels like you're in a forest or open space. Thank you.
Okay, great. And so Barbara, you got all that submitted or will submit?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, we have a copy of it in writing.
Okay, yeah, so I just want to make sure the right people got the copy, so. Okay, so,
Okay, your next speaker is Will Kempton, and will be followed by Loretta Hettinger.
good evening, Will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Will Kempton, I reside at 140 Feather Falls Circle in Folsom. I'm here tonight as chair of the Park and Recreation Commission. So that's the one half, Councilmember Sheldon, that you were talking about. I'd also like to recognize Commissioner Y.K. Charlam-Churla, who's here with us this evening, and appreciate his service on the Park and Rec Commission. We do really want to commend staff, as Councilmember Gaylord said, for bringing the document to the Park and Recreation Commission and for listening and for responding to many of the concerns that we raised and suggested for consideration. With respect to this river district, one of the goals in the draft document called for enhancement of the American River Parkway, urban waterways, and riparian corridors to increase public access for active and passive recreation. This is similar to the trail segment below the Lake Natoma crossing that was just completed. We have a beautiful amenity here in Folsom in Lake Natoma, but many people don't have an opportunity to access that or to take advantage of recreation opportunities offered by that amenity. You can drive over the Folsom Lake crossing, you can drive over the Rainbow Bridge, you can look at the facility, but it is not all that easy to access that facility. And as a regular user of the trail around Lake Natoma, I can speak with some authority on that. We agreed with that goal, meaning the commission, and also agreed with the creation of a river district that would allow for a process to determine what the community wants to do with respect to Lake Natoma. And our hope is that they will see the benefit of improving and enhancing access to, again, what is a wonderful amenity for our city. We also talked about indoor sport facility development. The staff and the consultant responded to that. We talked about the fact that we needed to have some specific implementation strategies. We were able to have some of those included in the revisions. And consistent with previous recommendations, and I think this is very important for as we proceed on a variety of different aspects, but we do need a governmental coordination strategy in this final plan to ensure engagement and appropriate assistance from county, state, and federal agencies in achieving the goals and policies contained in the draft general plan. So in short, we think the city was very responsive. We certainly appreciate staff's collaboration in that. We agree with the staff recommendation to move forward with the general plan update process this evening. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Will.
Can we grow? Can we ask a question?
Pardon?
Can we ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, my time. Would you be, as a park commission chairman, would you agree that maybe the park, if you're going to talk recreation as the emphasis, okay? And that seems to be the key word in this river district, recreation and access to the river. Now, we have access to the river. Eagle Bar gives us access. Will Creek down the road of Folsom Boulevard gives us access, okay? It's that we want access from Sutter Street area, that area, okay? Now, if you're at the Park and Rec Commission, and I worked with you many years, I know how darn good you are. If Park and Rec was the lead agency on the River District, I probably would be a little, maybe less worried. But with FedCorp and the partnership, FedCorp Tourism and Chamber, I don't feel comfortable at all that it would be recreation, such as when the riverfront project we just finished that you referred to. Beautiful. I was apprehensive. I eat my words. Beautiful. But the keynote there was access for disability people. It's 300 yards from the parking garage to where you can see the river. Okay, for a disabled person to go 300 yards downhill and then come back uphill. Now, forget the disabled person. I don't want to forget about it as far as the promotion. There's a lot of people using that go to the market, walk on down and take a look. That's great, okay? So it is doing a good job of people having access to the river. So I'm just concerned that if we don't have the proper controls, it's going to be nothing but economic development down there. Okay, and I don't think the river is too important to destroy it with more restaurants and bars and things of that nature. You say, I know you tell me it won't happen. I don't know. So that's the only question I ask. I would say if Park and Rec was the lead agency, I could probably rest easy. But you're not.
Ernie, here's the wording in the document, though, which I think might help you a little bit, is, and this is just on LU 23, and there's a red line paragraph in there that adds this river district overlay. And as you get to the last, like, 3 or 4 lines on there, it says, much of the land surrounding the river is controlled by California State Parks Department. So increasing access to the river will require close coordination with the state. Policies in the parks and recreation element provide further guidance on the enhancement of riverfront areas and increased access for recreation. So I don't feel there's a boogeyman here, and I like that wording because we know, having worked with state parks, that they're very concerned about what happens down there, and we have to work with them. But, I think this is an appropriate acknowledgement to folks like the state parks that we're interested in doing a few more things like we just completed down there.
I follow your logic, okay? But what got this onto this draft thing was not a tweak it as a park commission, Chair.
Well,
What got that
well,
was the thing
well,
that FedCor said, put it on.
That's okay, Ernie, because it doesn't matter who put it here, but what you need to focus on is what you can or can't get comfortable with as far as the wording in here. So I just ask you to look at that and see, because what you were just commenting to Will about as far as, you know, what this means to you, I think reads that way in this.
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond, I would agree with Councilmember Sheldon that there is some access. I think it's limited access. I think it could be expanded significantly to make that amenity more available to a lot of our residents for use. And certainly, the Park Commission is focused on the recreational aspects of this in terms of active and passive access. I would say that this process that's laid out clearly indicates that there's going to be a community engagement in determining. I don't think it's appropriate that the Park Commission would singularly decide what should happen there, but I do believe that the time is ripe for a large-scale community strategy that would look at what we should do with this particular amenity. And that may be any number of different approaches, but it should be based on that community input.
Well, you know, I agree. I have no problem with that, what you just said. But when the chamber comes up, and Joe wears 3 hats, you only have 2, Joe has 3. When they come up, they talk about Seattle, Washington, 750,000 population. They talk about Portland. Oh, sent the team to Portland, they came back, 680,000. And then they talk about San Antonio Riverwalk, 1,000,004. Folks, Folsom is 75,000. Don't compare apples and oranges to get a point across that we need such a thing, okay? I'm not saying that Park and Rec, they do, State Park and Rec, they do as best they can with what they have, I assume. And we, with our park system, under your commissions and Robert's Goss, park people, do probably a better job, okay? But I'm not criticizing state, they have what they have to do. But I think we got to know is what are we aiming for a town of 75 going to 125 or 130 maybe?
Well, I would just comment on this. First of all, again, I think we all agree that we need to have community input before we proceed further. But I would say that it makes a lot of sense to me that we would be looking at other jurisdictions. This amenity is different than Seattle. It's different than Portland. It's different than some of the other areas that you've mentioned. But we should, I think, look at best practices. What have people done? What have they been able to accomplish with respect to enhancement of access to waterfront property and things of that nature? I think that makes a lot of sense to know what has gone on and what's been done in other jurisdictions. That doesn't mean we need to emulate them or proceed in the same direction. I don't think you can compare Seattle and Lake Natoma in Folsom. But it really does come back to the community input as guiding what we should do with that waterfront.
So I'm glad you brought that up in regards to best practices, because at first I think the whole idea of the river district was vague and a bit ambiguous, and Joe submitted, what is it, LU 5.1.4, which kind of clarifies a little more, but taking best practices from ideas like Chicago and San Antonio is one thing, but ensuring that the practice of economic growth in that area, trampling what's there and turning a gem into something that it may not be later, because once you do it, done, right? So I want to ensure, I like the verbiage from that standpoint of what was submitted as an amendment to it, but I want some barriers and walls on this thing and make sure that it's not, a beast, because it really did go from 0 to hero, I mean, literally in 2 council meetings. So it does scare folks a little bit, and I've heard a ton of comments. I've also heard a ton of comments positive about accessing that area. So I will say I have heard both. So I am a little concerned when it's compared to these bigger cities, the metropolitan areas,
If Mr. Mayor, I'm going to jump in if I may. I think what got missed is one of the really key presentations, and Roger's hit the key element again. Everybody, I guess, forgot the presentation that the joint chambers did when they went to Stillwater, Minnesota, which is almost a mirror image of Old Town. Population's 18,000. And yes, we look around the country for best practices, That's how we found out about Stillwater, so that way we could actually compare an apple-to-apple type situation. Even though we're 60,000 more residents, they have a jewel that almost exactly looks like Sutter
Where
Street.
was that presented?
Here. They gave a presentation here 2 years, 3 years ago.
And I
now?
was on that trip with
I was,
Steve,
yeah.
and it was remarkably similar to the city of Folsom, where they had a historic district. They have the river there, although they have a different situation because they have motorized boats, because it's a
It's a
bigger
big river,
waterway.
yeah.
But they have done something very similar. They have some recreational uses. They have some docks and stuff on the river. There's no buildings, there's no bars, there's no restaurants. None of that exists on the waterfront.
On the river. But where I was going with all that, just to kind of, again, bring something forward, because there's a lot being missed that needs some importance and clarification. This process for this river district started almost 7 years ago, when the governor announced a plan to give back more access and more amenities that state parks was under control to local jurisdictions. That's how long ago this started. There's no secret, I announced it when I was 2 times ago, 3 times, I remember when I was mayor one time, said we need to move forward with this. We took an opportunity with Kerry Miller and then Everett Palmer and met with state parks a number of times, especially when the retired major general. And the governor's office liked it, he liked it, Department of Water Resources liked it, and that's what projected this thing a little farther forward. We identified the fact that this is in our city limits. And in addition to that, where I brought it to all concerned, I know you knew about it, other people knew about it, was the fact that I'm a signatory representing the city of Folsom on the master services element document from Auburn to Sacramento that encompasses all the American River watershed, including Lake Natoma. In that document, there are many opportunities within that document to be amended to where we as a city of Folsom can be the steward of Lake Natoma, absent and apart from the current contract, because it's amendable. And we've done a lot of research, and a lot of homework to actually see that it can be done that way. Tonight, we're not proposing any type of development. It's not a Fed Corp idea. It's not a Chamber of Commerce idea. It was a Steve Miklos City Council community idea that I brought forward and started launching when the governor announced his plan to give back to municipalities state resources and state items that really had access, recreational opportunities that were being withheld from the public because we couldn't get to them. The state couldn't administer them. The state couldn't keep them up. I mean, you name it. This one was big on his list. When we presented this to that department and to his office, this was exactly the mirror of what he was looking for, is a jurisdiction like us stepping up and saying, we can do that. And we also said, and this is no different, again, this is just thinking forward, we've never proposed anything that's not already in the current master services element document as it exists today in that plan.
Let me make sure. And I see this as basically a placeholder. As Steve said, we've been talking about this for 7 or 8 years. We've on many different occasions gone round and round and round with state parks because they have control over what happens at Lake Natoma on land that is owned by the federal government that we don't own. But we couldn't put so much as a dock for canoes down there. And I think that, if we were to move forward and have some sort of a 70,000-foot plan for, okay, we'd like to put 2 canoe docks, and we'd like to have maybe, change the lake side so that it was like a beach entrance on this side instead of having to go and pay $10 or $12, whatever it costs to get into the state park from the Negro Bar side. And we, I think, have well established that the city of Folsom would probably do a much better job at taking care of the bike trail. And I'm going to add one more example that I saw when I was driving down Folsom a couple days ago. There's like 8 oak trees that have come down at the edge of Folsom Boulevard on what is property that the state is supposed to be maintaining. Somebody needs to get that stuff out of there, or it's a fire hazard and potentially a traffic hazard. So I think that's kind of where I'm coming from on this. And if we can come together and have a support of the community, regardless of which group that is, but support of the community to enhance the recreational aspects and the beauty of Lake Natoma and move forward with some sort of a plan, I think it puts us in a much, much better position to wrest a little bit of control away from state parks. And if it's taken us 7 years to get to this point, I think that's a really good first step.
So on my comments, sorry, on my comments, I hope maybe I misspoke. I am for having an outline within this general plan. I just don't want it to be vague. I don't want it to be ambiguous. And I'm also concerned with, I agree with Councilmember Miklos and Vice Mayor Howell. My concern is maintenance would cost the city money. And also Sutter Street has a lot of pending concerns for a lot of residents and business owners, and onboarding if it's a tourism spot and it is successful. There's a lot to go into it. So I'm good with it being in here. I just want to ensure there's just checks and balances. And to go back on a point that where I will disagree, I don't think FedCorp or the chamber, I don't think they're out to slam a bunch of stuff into this and make it this oasis of business and whatever. But I did see excitement at the meeting, and I will congratulate the enthusiasm and excitement to make this something. I just want to make sure that the residents have an input on it and that there's transparency all across the board with it. So that's what I'll champion on it. But I do like that it is in here and we are addressing it. So.
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, you have an opportunity to hear from Joe later in the presentations. I just wanted to close, if I could, on the main point, and that was to commend the city for the outreach to the appointed commissions and for being responsive, because that was something that was new in my experience serving the city of Folsom, and I thought it was very well done, and I just wanted to commend city staff and the council for that kind of effort.
Okay, and you have taken all of Joe's time too, so.
And Mr. Mayor,
I wanted to close out one last item, and I think Roger brought up a very good point. This has been no secret in the community for at least 7 years, and one of the elements that we actually would like to bring back to the city, and a lot of us remember, a lot of us don't, there used to be camping down there, used to be Boy Scout jamborees down there, and part of the reason they had to pull out is the lack of maintenance that state parks wasn't doing. They've gotten a lot better, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm bashing state parks. I think they do the best they can with the tools that they were given, and what, in my opinion, lack of support they should be given for their job. But we as a community started asking probably 12, 15 years ago, what happened to the campgrounds that were down there? What happened to all the jamborees down there? What happened to all the civic events that used to be planned down there? And what we were getting was no, 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 no from state parks, because unfortunately they couldn't man it properly. They couldn't keep it safe. I mean, liability was screaming everywhere. So that's when we originally started talking about this. And then, like I said, we took the opportunity when the governor announced that he wanted these amenities that sat in jurisdictions like ours to be taken over by people like us. And we basically committed to, hey, we're not going to put anything forward that's not already in the master plan for the state parks. And if you ever read the master plan for state parks for that area, it has camping, it has jamborees, it has boat docks. They're not talking about restaurants and bars and buildings all the way to the waters. It talks about expansion of the beach area, as a matter of fact. So all the things that are current in the element, if everyone wants to take time to actually read the master element for the American River watershed, which includes Lake Natoma, that's everything we want to do. And I agree with you, Roger. I'm not one that's going to say, right away, let's put buildings all the way up to the water's edge and this and that. I want to improve the access, recreational, and all the other opportunities. As an example, there's no reason we shouldn't be hosting those rowing championships since they use 90% of that lake in our city. Why can't we stage it ourselves? I mean, I can go on and on and on, but that's the catalyst of the
Economic
transparency.
development. That's not recreation, that's economic development, because you'll fill up
Excuse me,
every
Ernie,
room.
I wasn't finishing my thought here. What enables it is that there's more access for people to come down and actually view it. Because right now, there's not enough area for people to come down and actually view these national championships. Whether they stay in our hotels or not is irrelevant. You can't even come down and watch them because there's no space other than at the Sacramento Aquatic Center to actually watch these folks go by. We wanted to create more access so people can see these things. That's my driver. Yes, they might stay in our hotels. Those are no different than the fun runs or the Easter egg hunts or the Amgens or whatever. Yeah, that's certainly a nice ancillary benefit. There's no question.
And the rowing champ, the people that row already stay in Folsom, so.
Yeah.
Okay, we've beaten this one.
Anyway,
to death,
so that's, I just want to make sure, I agree with you, Raj. So this has been going on for quite some time, and you and I can talk offline. I'll give you the rest.
And I just want to add one more thing that, that former Councilmember Holderness showed me about 2 years ago. If you pull into the parking lot at the Cliff House, and walk over to the edge of the parking lot, if you look down, there's a parking lot at Lake Natoma that used to be part of the campground and where you could bring non-motorized vehicles. It's still there, and as badly deteriorated as that parking lot is, it's actually in better shape than the Cliff House parking lot. But that's one example of something that already exists that could be improved as far as access goes. That's already been,
Okay,
you know,
so I think
exists.
everybody's made very salient points there, and it was that discussion that we needed to have, because this is, there's a lot of concern over exactly how this appears in the document. So, so again, you know, I would encourage all of us with strong opinions on this to just make sure those comments get pushed to the proper folks. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just one clarification for the record. Goal LU 5.1.4 that was referenced by Councilmember Gaylord just a few moments ago is included in the materials that's been provided to the council. It's in the supplementary agenda item information that was indicated by the clerk at the beginning of your meeting. So the text of that addition to the general plan that is not in the draft document is in the supplemental materials, and staff is supportive of inclusion of that language into the draft general plan.
okay, Roger.
I just wanted to say what I don't want to see is an RSVP VIP invite list for 80 people to check it out like the Courtyard was, because that doesn't get people's opinions when 50% of those folks aren't even residents. So I want to make sure that when we reach out for this and get the information that we want from residents, it's an actual campaign that gets there.
They should be doing it now.
What's that?
They should be doing it now. We've had
Well, I was going to
invites out for
say,
years.
the next point of that, and I agree, 24 months is any viral campaign to get any attention. So this is closing out in an EIR review shortly. So I don't know who champions that, if it's the city or.
We haven't started the EIR yet.
No, but it will be soon is what I'm saying. So
Right.
there's no, that's my point on it. I'm good that it's in there, but I want to stress the fact that it has to reach residents, so.
One more thing, I got to answer my friend on the left. First of all, when the governor gives up that type, he's cutting his costs. Don't fool yourself. He's not worried about Folsom.
I'm not fooling myself. I'm pretty
Okay.
damn smart, Ernie.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
he's cutting his course. I mean, he's
So
cutting his
appreciate that
costs. That's what
comment.
he's doing. Well, I'm not criticizing you.
Okay.
The governor's doing it.
Oh, okay.
And you referred to the major general that was in what you talked about. He lasted 6 months, he's gone. So he couldn't handle that. So there's more to it, okay?
We get that, Ernie.
So that's all I
That's
wanna
what we've
say
been
to
talking
you.
about. So,
Rivera.
nope, it's complicated. All right.
It is.
Next speaker.
Your next speaker is Loretta Hettinger, and Loretta will be followed by Joe Gagliardi.
Good evening, Loretta.
Hello. First, I want to speak very complimentarily. I am so pleased that the new redlined version raises the consciousness of history in this community. That said, I do have a little bit more to say. What is responded to in that document was the preliminary comments that we gave to you the night of your hearing, with the caveat that we were amplifying them and making them clearer if we could. And that was the email that you received from us. And so I wanted it to not be confusing that the email you received from Heritage Preservation League is not what is in your matrix. And I understand that they've been out of budget to go further. So do I understand correctly from you, Mr. Mayor, that you want them to create another draft?
Yeah, so the idea is that there will be, and you know, I don't think we're worried about, you know, I mean, we're always worried about budgetary stuff, but this is too important to cut corners. So no, we are going to make sure that happens. So we're going to see another iteration of this. So again, please submit comments. We're going to make Chelsea work more. And so we'll get an iteration of this in about a month. And we do. I mean, we could go on for decades and never get anywhere. We've got to make decisions as a council. And so the goal is to do that. Now, if we get incredibly stuck on something, we're not going to let the clock force us to make a bad decision. But I think we can get there. You know, just all this discourse is important tonight to refine this, you know, hopefully final iteration. And again, this is before it goes to environmental, and there'll be additional opportunities for comments. So, long
Okay.
process.
Well, I would like the opportunity to sit down with some of the people who are working on this, because they've made a lot of good changes. But as I mentioned to you before, the depth of knowledge of historic district and history preservation in general isn't here like it used to be. And they
I
have...
told you, Loretta, that was your fault for retiring.
I take the blame. So that's why I have to help fix it.
Right, so that'll be the charge of our city manager to make sure that, all this stuff gets taken care of as we get into the next month, so.
Okay, I'll be calling Everett.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Loretta.
Okay, next speaker is Joe Gagliardi, and Joe will be followed by Bob Holderness.
Good evening, Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I didn't know my name was going to be utilized so much tonight, but so I had some comments here. But I'm going to go sideways on you a little bit and kind of address some of the questions that came up.
Sure.
I did want to call LU 5.1.4, which was submitted, that had to do with existing land uses, and we were encouraging that be incorporated. But I did want to address some of the questions that came up relative to FedCorp and the Greater Folsom Partnership. This simply was a recommendation to include a river district of some kind. We sit on the body of a water and saying, can we utilize that as an asset to a bigger degree? We aren't advocating that we control it. We're not advocating what can be done. In fact, one of the policies in the document, page 1M10, says implementation programs, widespread community engagement in this. So we're not trying to control this. So what I'd like to do is rewind back to when the revitalization happened on Sutter Street. We brought it forward to the city to say, would you consider this? We didn't control it. We weren't, and what we did, we took people to different areas and showed them different things about what could and couldn't be done, and listened to people. And ironically, you'd be surprised at what people saw in communities that you would never. We took them to Santana Row, we took them to Los Gatos, we took them to the 4th Street, we took them to Walnut Creek, we took them to Pleasanton. Do any of those emulate what we have here exactly? Absolutely not. But are there elements of it? Absolutely. There was elements that people picked from that and said, hey, I like this and I like that. So you guys refer to big communities and you talk about Seattle and Portland, and I would say if you were to look at the waterfront along Portland, you'd see like nice green grass lying along the banks of the river in Portland. Maybe that's an element that people, the community, would like to see as part of Lake Natoma. You don't have to say the size of the place, but you have to look at the elements that incorporate, that make a place that people want to be. That's what we're encouraging. This year is our 11th year doing this, and we always go to a community that's large with a small one next to it. We went to, Steve was referring to Minneapolis, St. Paul, but we also went to Stillwater because we're looking for places that have an urban to rural connection. So last year we went to Bend. Folsom is much more closer to what Bend would be, and looked at what they did, not only just at the River District, but what they did with innovation relative to encouraging the Oregon State to open an extension there. So I don't want us to be confused that we're trying to control this. What we're trying to say is this is an opportunity. The general plan is the opportunity to incorporate the waterfront into something the city can envision what it wants in the future. I'll submit, some comments relative to other things that we'd like to see, incorporated, but I just wanted to clarify, we're not trying to control this. We're just trying to say it's an opportunity.
Yeah, well said, and we appreciate your comments that you've been sending our way, Joe. So, all right, next.
Your next speaker is Bob Holderness, and Bob will be followed by Marianne McAleah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Robert G. Holderness appearing this evening as the chairman of the Folsom Economic Development Corporation, also known as FedCorp, also known, apparently, if I can borrow a phrase from one of your colleagues, Mayor, Ernie's boogeyman. And I'm surprised that would be the case, but there you are. Life is what it is. Mr. Mayor, we have promoted the idea of a river district because of the historical context of recent Folsom history. In 1944, the United States government authorized the building of Folsom Dam, signed into law by FDR. And among the provisions of that enabling statute was that the federal government was obligated to maintain and enhance the recreational opportunities that were then present along the American River circa 1944, including boating, rowing, fishing, et cetera. The Bureau of Reclamation hasn't really done that good a job doing that because they're into building and operating dams, not providing recreational opportunities. State Parks in 1978 adopted a wonderful general plan for Lake Natoma when Jerry Brown was governor the first time. But around 10 or so years ago, they basically turned their back on that plan. That plan had, for example, just to show you a couple illustrations, if I may, it had a new boat harbor at Beals Point in Folsom Lake. It had a very elaborate recreational opportunity at Negro Bar State Park with all kinds of picnic table areas and broader sandy beaches and so forth and so on. They don't have that anymore. But the demand for recreational opportunity on Lake Natoma has not dropped because the state has dropped the ball because they don't have the money. And frankly, having access at Willow Creek is not access for the people of Folsom. There's not one person in 500 that knows you can access Lake Natoma there. And Negro Bar State Park, that's for the people who are attending the park. We need access where the people live, and one of the places the people live is in the historic district. That's one example of what a river district can do for our community. I think, Council, with all respect, Council Member Sheldon has drawn the wrong analogy. The analogy is these other communities have looked at their river. They've said, you know, for 100 years, we treated our river as our back door. We need to treat it as our front door. That's what Bend, Oregon is doing. That's what Nashville is doing. That's what Spokane, Washington is doing. All of those communities have changed their perspective on their river. And we need to recognize that our historic district where people live and work and recreate is right along the river, and we need to enhance access. And I challenge any council member to have breakfast at Karen's Bakery, walk down to the new ADA trail, which is a beautiful trail, and I might, for the record, point out that Councilmember Sheldon acknowledged that it's way better than he thought it would be. Okay. But I would challenge you to have your kids or your grandkids or your nephews and nieces to go swimming there. You won't do that because the river there is riprap. It's not sandy beach. We don't have an access point for our kids. They got to go all the way over to Negro Bar. And that's not acceptable. We need to do better. And that's all we're planning to do with the River District is get our community together, to work together, as Councilmember Gaylord says, work together, articulate what we want for our River District, and then implement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thanks, Bob.
Your next speaker is Marianne McAleah.
Good evening, Marianne.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow City Council members. I'm here we're wearing two hats tonight. One hat as a resident of Folsom for 30 years. I just wanted to take a moment and say how much I appreciate the inclusiveness of this process and the diligence that's been really shown in all phases of the execution. I think I speak for many people here in that it builds so much confidence in the leadership and direction of the city. I'm also here tonight as the Senior Vice President of the Greater Folsom Partnership, and for the last 14 years, shepherding the development of a responsible, positive tourism effort for the city of Folsom. So I just want to take a moment. I won't repeat some of the other comments that have already been made. I do want to share an anecdote, though, because Councilmember Sheldon, I respect your concern for our active seniors, and I have to tell you, as someone who works in historic Folsom, during the course of the week, a lot of the visitors to the district on a Monday through Friday daytime basis are that demographic. And the opportunity that has now become available because of the most recent trail opening that's been referenced tonight is phenomenal. I actually have walked 2 different travel riders over to that trail in the last 2 weeks. And at one juncture, I encountered a friend who was wheeling his mother up who has been in assisted care in Folsom for the last 5 years, and her big request was to get close to the water. The smile on her face and the smile on his face because of this new access was just a very small example of how this amenity is changing opportunities for a whole segment of our population, the active seniors, that I think we really want to get in front of. So maybe an unintended benefit, but definitely something that was worth noticing and commenting on. From the standpoint of marketing Folsom and tourism marketing in general, the appeal of water is undeniable. It is part of the physical beauty of Folsom. It's part of the energy of Folsom. I love Bob Holderness's comment about the water becoming the front door. We know how important water is, so much so that when we developed our logos and put together a lot of our collateral, the greatest percentage of it features some portion of the water amenity. But the question that comes about as a result are the many people that walk into the visitor center and want to know, how can I experience the water? And if they're not a stand-up paddleboarder or a kayaker, their opportunities are very limited. So this opportunity to have a community engagement and to look at a very responsible tourism effort that really does a job of showcasing one of the most physically beautiful stretches of water in the whole region. As a matter of fact, from a tourism marketing standpoint, this amenity allows Folsom to stand out in a very significant way from many of the communities around us. And so I think the dialogue about how to do that well, which we have a very strong track record in Folsom of doing these projects well, will go a long way towards continuing to have that river district be an anchor and a front door that'll leverage all the partners in the historic district, and as a matter of fact, even beyond that in the Folsom area. People come to regions. They don't come for one thing. They come for the experience, and that would be a very positive experience that we could include. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marianne. Okay, that was it. So with that, we'll go ahead and close public hearing on that. So I guess, you know, I don't know if there are other comments or questions from council members, but just start things off. Again, I've articulated, you know, loosely, you know, what we'll aim for here. And Everett, if I could ask you just to maybe shoot us in your next update to the council members, just kind of a game plan and how realistic it is. You have to let us know if that's not a good idea. But if, you know, if we have a realistic chance of, again, going through this additional iteration, getting additional comments, compiling what we've heard tonight, and put things together.
And I can answer the question right now, Mr. Mayor, and it's a simple one, really. We did receive some comments prior to the meeting. The staff report does reflect that comments from Heritage Preservation League that were received but not necessarily dealt with due to staff timing and what have you. But we can take those comments, the comments received from others, the feedback that we understand from the council tonight, roll them into another draft and have it back to you at the second meeting in June, if that would be your desire. And at that time, I think it would probably be appropriate to then look forward at the calendar and do our best estimate with regard to how long it'll take to do the environmental work and when this might be in front of you for a final workshop where we would turn the draft into a final document and present it to the council for adoption, because that is the one thing that is missing in the context of everything right now, and I think that might be helpful to you as you deliberate as well, not in the interest of necessarily rushing things along, but having the whole picture of how this plan will go from its current iteration of draft into final form and have the environmental and the plan presented for you for adoption. But I think that fortunately for us, we have a very sophisticated group of stakeholders. Their comments are not hard to understand, and most of them are available to us to sit down should we have any more detailed questions. And Loretta and I do spend some time on the phone. Usually when I'm driving to lunch, we'll have a nice spirited conversation for old time's sake, which is good. So If that answers your question, I could turn that into action for you
right.
easily enough.
And so to have, that updated timeline would be really helpful too, because again, not that we're rushing, but, there needs to be an end, and just to see how that process will work itself out. And the only other thing I have to add, because I'll have some other things that I'll just submit in writing or whatever, is that I think we can all get a feeling here that this is already much better than it was the first time around. So I just like to thank everybody for their contributions to this, and again, keep, get these comments to our staff folks, and, we'll get things incorporated or teed up for our consideration to be incorporated. And, again, try to maintain the timelines we just discussed. But, my thanks to all the folks. This will be a really good, powerful document when it is complete. So with that, any other questions,
I'd like
comments?
to request that the additional comments that have come in since the staff report was prepared, if we could add those to the back of that table that is attachment 9, that was actually very helpful for me. But could we please start the table on a new page so that we know when those comments were received, so we know that they're subsequent to this first table, because that's a fairly extensive table. And the only other thing that I want to do is, I think one of the comments that were received tonight from Casey that submitted quite a few comments at the last time we visited this issue, there seems to have been some confusion on his part with regard to the discussion about the annexation that I started my comments to Chelsea about. That discussion of annexation had to do with the property that will ultimately be the courtyard. So he made a reference to something that related to strip clubs that was a completely different subject matter. So.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. Roger? Any final questions, comments? You good? All right. And then Ernie, Steve, got anything left, Ernie?
Me?
Yep. Anything
Yeah,
to add?
not on this. You just, we're not council comments?
No,
no.
This, we aren't, I wish we were that far, Ernie, but we're
I
not.
like the comments, okay? I listen to them. I appreciate the chamber. I would prefer to be called rather than the boogeyman, maybe the Folsom conscience. I'm gonna make you feel guilty if you are guilty. This is the way it's gonna be. And tourism is fine, and I'm glad that we did get another recorded handicapped person using it. That's great. But I know there's a lot of other non-handicapped, which is fine. And I said in the beginning, why I didn't like it is because we're using ADA. We should have used enhancement of Sutter Street. In other words, you're going to go to buy a restaurant, go on, take a walk. That's great. But we didn't do that. We did ADA. And that's why I objected. But I like the comments.
Okay, I think.
And I just want to thank all of the residents that commented for all of their comments. Again, the vast majority of those are great comments, and thanks to the staff and our consultants for doing such a thorough job.
As Everett said, we've got some great comments from sophisticated folks in this region, and it'll all be for the greater benefit. So with that, we will move on to our next item, please.
Okay, your next item tonight is your old business item 9A. This is resolution number 9922, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement, a secured promissory note, a credit and reimbursement agreement, and other related documents with Aerojet Rocketdyne, Inc. for the purchase of property for a corporation yard.
Okay, looks like Scott's in front of us again here.
Yes, good evening. Yes, this item is a resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement for the new 57-acre corporation yard. The deal points on this agreement are essentially the same deal points that were presented to the council in 2014 that were ultimately approved by the council at that date. The proposed agreement does involve a few different changes to the project itself. The parcel, as shown here, is located south of White Rock Road, located at the terminus of Prairie City Road. The size of the parcel has been modified, as has the configuration of the parcel. The agreement details, the proposed agreement includes the same deal points, as I mentioned, as a previous agreement. The purchase price for this 57-acre parcel is $1.4 million. The funding for this purchase would be funded by the Folsom Plan Area landowners. Initially, they would provide a $580,000 payment upon closing of the property. The balance of the payment due would be collected by the City of Folsom while we collect the corporation yard impact fees, and then those would be transmitted to Aerojet to fulfill the final payment obligation. As I mentioned, the parcel size has changed a bit. Initially, it was thought to be a 32-acre parcel. That parcel size has increased to 57 acres, which sounds like quite a bit of an increase. However, 18 acres of that is future right-of-way that will be dedicated to the Southeast Capitol Connector Project and to the extension of Prairie City Road entering the project site. The actual corporation yard acreage nets out at about 36 acres. Lastly, the configuration of the parcel has been modified at the request of LAFCO. They requested that the parcel be contiguous to the existing city limits. The site plan and the document have been revised accordingly as requested by LAFCO. And we would request council approval of this resolution.
Okay, so questions, comments for Scott?
What's the timeline for this?
For the annexation?
Yeah.
We have aggressive schedule of about 12 months, and we're looking to get started right away. We've met with LAFCO staff and have majority of the application materials already prepared. So with positive action tonight on this item and on the next item, we'll be positioned well to submit the application immediately to LAFCO.
And then as far as actually occupying the space for the courtyard, what's that?
That'll
Sometime in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
It's been under discussion already for about 30, so.
Well, it seems like we're more underway now, so I mean, 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
Five or 10 years. It's hard to say. We have to construct facilities. We have to extend water and sewer lines. There's a considerable amount of infrastructure work that would have to happen down there as well. So,
thank you.
Good question. So any other questions for Scott?
I'll move the item.
Okay, moved by Vice Mayor Howell, seconded by Councilmember Gaylord, and we have no request to speak on this?
You have no request to speak.
No request to speak. So with that, please call the roll.
Councilmember Howell?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Gaylord?
Yes.
And Moran.
Yes. All right, moving on.
All right, that takes us to our new business item, 10A. This is resolution number 9921, a resolution concurring with landowner request and authorizing the city manager to submit a joint sphere of influence amendment and annexation application to LAFCO for the proposed new corporation yard.
Yes, as just mentioned, this is the item that would allow city staff to jointly file an application with LAFCO. Aerojet Rocketdyne has requested that the city join them in this application. It makes perfect sense for the city to do so. This particular parcel, in order to be developed as a corporation yard, would need to be annexed to the city of Folsom to provide services to the site. So it makes perfect sense, again, that city staff and Aerojet would join in a joint application. And we look forward to submitting the application with your support tonight.
You know, I have one quick question. This just came to mind. I remember sitting in a Southeast Connector meeting a while ago, and they had a configuration of Scott Road coming up and then meeting at Prairie City. Does this still, have we been talking to people about that and we're all good? Oh, I think I see. All
you
right.
can see it along that parcel E there, Mr. Mayor. That essentially is could be a future alignment of
Okay,
Scott Road.
okay.
A lot
And-
of things have to happen
Yeah,
there
so
too. But
I know Steve sits on the Southeast Connector
Yes.
board, so, okay.
Just for clarification, as you'll note, as Scott Road goes north, it intersects with the potential, the alignment of or the approved alignment of the connector there with no on-ramp or off-ramp facilities. And so this would be the provision for Scott Road traffic going north to intersect with the extension of Prairie City Road.
Okay, okay, great. Any other questions for Scott on this?
Is this a public hearing?
Well, no. But
Then I'll move resolution 9921.
Second.
Okay, moved by Vice Mayor Hall, seconded by Councilmember Miklos, and we have no request to speak on
None.
this? Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Howell?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Sheldon? Gaylord?
Yes.
And Moran.
Yes.
Good word, guys.
Yeah. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the regular meeting of the Folsom City Council and convene the joint City Council Successor Agency, Public Financing Authority, Folsom South of 50 Parking Authority, Folsom Ranch Financing Authority meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Council and board members Howell,
Here.
Miklos.
Present.
Sheldon.
Here.
Gaylord.
Here.
And Moran.
Present.
Move consent.
Second.
Okay, consent moved by Councilmember Miklos, seconded by Vice Mayor Hall. Please call the roll.
Council and board members Howell,
Yes.
Miklos.
Aye.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Gaylord.
Yes, sorry.
And Moran.
Aye. All right, we're going to adjourn that meeting and reconvene the regular meeting of the Folsom City Council and move to our city manager comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Just a couple of quick notes. One, in the world of traffic, Placerville Road, which has been closed for the last month or so, will be reopening on June 2nd. That's the good news. The outlook is that we also are going to be closing Scott Road between eastbound Highway 50 off-ramp and White Rock Road for significant infrastructure improvements that relate to the Folsom Plan Area development. That road will be shut down for probably 6 months or so, and so we're working to expedite that work. There will be detours available, and they'll be generally well-signed. So just ask the people that are commuting southbound on Scott Road to be aware and look for alternate routes along Prairie City and US 50.
Is there going to be a message sign along the freeway letting anybody know this?
That's a good question. Not on the freeway, but on our surface streets.
When you get off of Highway
Correct.
50, we can put a message sign there? Okay.
And then am I seeing that they're working on that connector road between Old Placerville and Scott Road there as far as trying to assist with some of that
Yeah,
stuff? So-
Alder Creek Parkway will create.
Alder Creek
triangle
Parkway.
loop
Okay,
there.
all right, great.
And actually, Dave, if we're going to put signs out there, I'm guessing based on the length of this, we should probably get them out there sooner rather than later. The construction signs that say Scott Road closed from beginning whatever date to whatever date. Thank you.
Very exciting time in the city of Folsom and Folsom's fire department. We do have a change of command ceremony scheduled for June 1st, so I'd invite the community and certainly all the staff and the council members to come out on June 1st at 10 a.m. And this ceremony will be outdoors at the library gazebo. If you've never been to a fire change of command ceremony, they are steeped with tradition, and they're a lot of fun. And certainly, this is a very exciting time for the Folsom Fire Department, in particular, our new Fire Chief Felipe Rodriguez. And we look very much forward to having him join our team and serve our community. And I've said this before, but once again, thanks to interim fire chief and former fire chief Dan Haverty for filling in for these last 6 months so admirably, and I'm just so grateful to have Dan as a friend and in my Rolodex to call on in situations like this. So
Are we
very
having
exciting
another
time.
retirement party for Dan?
We had donuts at the executive team meeting that he bought. Yeah, right. That's how we treat outgoing fire chiefs. The new guy will get better treatment. And not to be outdone, this week coming up, or shortly coming up, the library will be launching their summer reading program. That's Saturday, May 27th, from 10 a.m. to noon. And if you've never participated in our summer reading program, if you have young ones, or even if you don't, we have summer reading programs for adults and people that span the age spectrum. Ernie might even enjoy this as well. I know you like to read, sir. So I'd invite you to come out to the library then as well. And there's just a million things coming in the summertime in Folsom. If you can't find something to do, you're not working very hard. So please do check the city's website at www.folsom.ca.us, because our Parks and Recreation Department has a number of award-winning programs at your disposal. So thank you very much. That's it.
Excellent. Thanks, Everett. Roger, anything here?
I was late today because I got to watch my son receive an award for his GPA, an honors award, but that was fun to see. But what was also amazing to see, kind of a testament to FCUSD, is that There was an hour and 10 minutes of Principal Phillips reading names of kids, students who fell within the realm of 3.7 to 4.0. It was more than 100 kids. It was amazing to see. I mean, I think the whole school might have been there. Like, I don't know I don't know what the average GPA is, but there were a ton of kids, and it was just jaw-dropping to see these kids excelling academically so far. So it was pretty good to see. I just wanted to bring attention to that.
Yeah, great. Congratulations on your son's fine work there. Steve?
Hey, just two quick items. Speaking of the JPA, so the JPA Connector Board met Friday to interview our prospective new executive director. There's going to be some announcement probably after this coming Friday about what we're going to do and who we may select to make an offer to. So that was 4 hours worth plus. And at SACOG, and kind of touched on a little bit that Ernie actually brought up about the autonomous cars. Coincidentally, one of the amendments to the SACOG work program is to filter in and to start analyzing in more and greater detail the autonomous cars and what their impact overall on the community. So besides a possible demonstration of autonomous cars in the city of Sacramento, we're looking at all the impacts that, people need to consider, because for every reaction you have here with a new something here, what happens to the old something here, as far as like jobs as an example, and on and on and on and on, and all the conflicts with some of the other programs that are actually taking cars off the highway. Now you're almost reintroducing more cars back on the highway. There's still going to be cars, they're just going to have not going to have drivers. So there's a lot of conflict going on. So we launched a proposal at SACOG to start looking at more and more detailed avenues of what's really going on out there, and we're actually going to integrate in some of our 2035 MTP amendments once we finish that look. Other than that, I have nothing.
All right, thanks for all the great work there on SACOG, Steve. Ernie?
Well, I had a quiet week. On Sunday, did an honor court for an Eagle Scout. Monday, I did 2 Eagle Scout honor courts. Tuesday, I went and presented 5 scholarships for the Folsom High School kids. Wednesday, I had a banquet for my end of my Boeing, and that, thank God it got done. Thursday and Friday, I had the opportunity to spend 5 hours on the pickup for the Run with Nature, and then another 6 hours on Saturday with Run with Nature. And about that time, I thought I had so much time left, I came over and started reading down this package. So it was interesting, but I always thought the parking lot at the post office was the most dangerous area in the world, okay? I changed my mind. The most dangerous area in the world is by McDonald's, because that's where we were sitting. I couldn't believe how people drive in that portion of that shopping center toward McDonald's. It was scary.
Which McDonald's are you talking about?
Over on the other side, my side of the river.
Oh, by Zittles.
Yeah.
Oh, Oak Avenue?
Yeah, Oak Avenue. And you talk about cars, Steve. I had a panic on Tuesday when I came up one short of that night of a scholarship flight. So I made a quick trip from my house to just about half a block west of Hazel. When I crossed the bridge, Natoma Crossing, it was absolutely bumper to bumper, double lane all the way to Folsom Boulevard. I mean, no entries. I got past there, got over, got my plaque. They came back. Took me 37 minutes to go from Highway 50 to Greenback. 37 minutes. It was again bumper to bumper. This is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm not sure there's anything we can do about that. But it is fantastic. I mean, I guess I've avoided that honor of seeing that. You people that might commute down to Sacramento, it's absolutely amazing. Where are those people coming from and where are they going? It's cut through. I'm sure it is. But it was good. But the Run with Nature was not that good. It was good from a running point of view. What we had was the actual runners, people that do run a lot of running events. What we lost somehow, somewhere, was the family runs. They weren't there. So we're going to have to take a hard look. When Robert gets back from his vacation, we'll start sitting down thinking about the whole thing.
Thanks, Ernie. Carrie?
Congratulations to all of the graduates, I guess the middle school kids as well as all three high schools. I know. Thank you, Andy, for representing the city council at the graduation for Folsom Lake High next door earlier tonight. Usual traffic warning, please drive carefully. I had the experience not this past weekend, the weekend before, traveling to Ione in the middle of Saturday afternoon when the lights at the just north of the freeway at the off-ramp at East Bidwell and the off-ramp coming from westbound Highway 50 and to some degree eastbound Highway 50, when those lights were flashing red, and I didn't realize that the city of Folsom doesn't control those lights, so called the police chief to see if we could get that straightened out, and my understanding is that Caltrans actually operates those lights, so if there's something that we can do to ensure that in future malfunctions of those lights on a Saturday afternoon that Caltrans will get out and get them repaired sooner. That was a nightmare. I'm kind of surprised that I didn't hear about any traffic accidents. Glad to hear that we're moving forward with the stuff on autonomous vehicles, because unfortunately most of the rest of the vehicles are still driven by people, and many of them are driving irresponsibly with regard to speeding, not stopping. I was actually laughing. I was coming down a street in the historic district a couple of days ago, and car goes right through the light on Percifer at Reading, and one of our police officers was sitting right there. I kept hoping that she was going to chase this vehicle, but didn't happen. So pay attention, because there's a lot of that going on. And with that, I will say goodnight.
Andy, can I add two things?
Sure.
I took a ride today in a golf cart at Vista High School, and the stadium is almost ready for Friday's. It's beautiful. Let me tell you, that's the way you want to see that particular facility. Get them to give you a ride in the golf cart. The sidewalks are geared just that they can get by. That is one heck of a facility with the finishing of the football field and all that. It is beautiful. It probably outranks a lot of junior colleges. It was tremendous. And one thing I want to give kudos to the CERT group that came and did the medical thing for the Run with Nature. They're all volunteers. There must have been about 10 or 12 of them. They did a good job.
Great, thanks, Ernie. The last thing I'll add is we have Memorial Day coming up, so our VFW hall folks always do a great job.
What time is that at
That's
Lakeside?
11 a.m. Lakeside Cemetery is the remembrance ceremony for our fallen veterans. And then earlier in the day, though, I will be at Vista Del Lago High School, is where they host the Wounded Veterans Run these days. So I think it's the 7th year of that. So anybody who hasn't signed up for that yet that's interested, it's a great cause. And
is that at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning?
it's the first run. I think the 10K starts at 8:30 and the 5K like at 8:45, something like that. But beautiful trails up in there. So just another one of those showcase runs in the city of Folsom. So again, both those very worthwhile Memorial Day events there. So with that, I will say good evening.
Good. Now I got to take this thing on. I didn't know it was in here. Yeah, I don't know.